Welcome to Tomorrow's World Today, a show dedicated to the discovery of innovation and cutting-edge technology. We showcase the latest developments from the greatest companies and smartest people in the world. Tomorrow's ideas are out there. And through our journey of inspiration, we will create a plan for the park of the future. This is Inventionland World Headquarters. Here now is George Davison.
Hey, Tamara. Ever since you went to Chiquita to learn more about banana production, I've been kind of obsessed with how things grow.
I know you like to think about your businesses growing, but what else has been on your mind?
Well, they say when you need inspiration, you're supposed to get up from your desk and take a walk. In fact, that's what Einstein used to do. So this morning, I got up and went outside and took a walk in the forest, and then it hit me.
Oh my God, what hit you? Did a branch fall on you? Are you okay?
No, nothing like that. I got hit with an idea, and I started realizing I'd like to know more about the lumber industry.
Huh, okay.
In fact, I've prepared something for you. I'd like to know more about forest management, harvesting of the lumber, and reforestation.
I am really glad to see reforestation on your list because truthfully, I've always wondered how an industry like the lumber industry works with environmental stewardship.
I'm glad you like that because you're gonna go see West Fraser down in Alabama. They're the largest lumber company in North America.
Okay, well, if that's the case, I guess I better log off my computer and get to the airport.
With a pun like that, I think it's time for you to get up and leave the office.
Ow!
Safe travels.
I'll see you soon. George has set me on a mission to find out all about technology and sustainability in the lumber industry. So I have journeyed to the American South to follow the life cycle of a log, from tree all the way to construction site. I'm here starting my journey on this incredible tree farm surrounded by these beautiful 18-year-old pine trees. And I've got a lot of questions, like how many millions of trees do the US and Canada need each year for domestic use? How many trees do we need to plant each year to replace those that have been harvested for industry? And what's the place of technology in this industry? How has it changed the process? How has it changed the jobs that are available in this industry? And of course, the gardening geek in me wants to know all the nitty-gritty about the planting details, like what climates are best for growing different kinds of trees. Is it better to plant trees on a tree farm like this or in a pre-existing forest? Like I said, lots of questions. Luckily, we're going to talk to some experts from West Fraser, which is one of the largest lumber companies in the world. Sustainability is a core value of the company, so they're the perfect people to talk to about how to balance environmental stewardship with a healthy bottom line. First, I want to find out a little bit more about the history of the company. So I'm going to talk to Chuck Watkins, who's going to tell me about how the company started and how they got to where they are today.
Hey, what are you doing up there?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to know what it was like to be 7 feet tall. And what I really want to know is more about West Fraser and how the company started.
We were founded in 1955. It was three brothers, Sam and Bill and Pete, the Ketchums. Went kind of on a fishing trip into the interior of British Columbia. They were lumber wholesalers, so they were buyers and sellers of lumber, and they went and visited one of their suppliers, and the supplier approached them about selling his business. So they purchased a planing mill in Quesnel, British Columbia. Had 12 employees, and that's how the company started.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is it called West Fraser instead of Ketchum?
The Fraser River runs through the interior of British Columbia, and most of the timber that they bought was west of the Fraser River, so that's how they came up with the name.
What are some of the key highlights along the way in the company's growth?
In the beginning, much of the work in the company was very manual, very labor-intensive, and over the course of time, computers have come into play. A lot of our technology become a lot more automated, much less manual labor, a lot less people to do the work that used to be required.
No more lumberjacks?
No more lumberjacks. That's correct. Tomorrow, when she gets in the mill, she's going to see a very modern, efficient, state-of-the-art mill, highly automated, very controlled and optimized by computers, very little manual labor, with highly skilled technical employees. One of the great things about technology is that we can get 6 logs of lumber now out of 5.
So wait a minute. So for every 5 logs you're now processing, you get what used to take 6 logs?
Yes.
George, that sounds pretty good to me. I know you like that efficiency. I know I like that sustainability. When did the company actually get its first computer?
In 1975, when we planted our millionth tree, it was also the year we got our first computer.
So when I think about the lumber industry, I think a lot about cutting down trees, but planting trees is also part of what West Fraser does.
Absolutely. We've planted to date 1.7 billion trees in the last 60 years. We plant about 2 trees for every 1 that we cut down. In Canada, it's a little slower growth cycle. It takes 60 to 80 years from planting to harvesting, and in the U.S., U.S. South particularly, it takes 25 to 40 years.
Is that one of the reasons that West Fraser looked to expand into the U.S. South?
Yes, absolutely.
What else makes this region such an important place for West Fraser?
Well, the U.S. is the bulk of the housing market, and the growth and the expansion in the U.S. is part of it. We're closer to the market, and it's a great resource with great people. Today, we're about 9,000 employees and 46 divisions across North America with a market cap of $5.8 billion. We're the largest lumber producer in the U.S. South. We are the largest producer in Canada. So you put those two together, and we're the largest producer in North America and the world.
Well, speaking of lumber mills and technology, I would love to get a hands-on look at all of this. Do you think it would be possible for you to arrange a visit to a mill for me?
Absolutely.
All right, can I get a hand?
Yes, sure can.
I've made it down to the Opelika Mill in Alabama, which is brand spanking new. So I've put on some safety gear because I am about to meet with Rob Goldie, who's going to give me a tour so I can see what a state-of-the-art mill looks like and take a look at tomorrow's technology today. Hey, I'm Tamara. You must be Rod.
I am. How'd you know that?
It's written on your hat.
You're back down from the crane.
I made it up, I made it down, and there's an amazing view up there. Although, I have to say, this is a pretty incredible view as well. Tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, this is the central control room for the mill. It's just various camera shots throughout the mill operation showing saws and how the lumber flows. We're also looking at our control of how we scan the logs and what we're making from each individual saw log.
So is each of these circles representative of one log?
It's representative of one slice of one log. Each log is kind of like an individual, and we have to scan it. We need to know the length, the shape, the diameter. So on the screen is actually the scanners working. So you can see the circular pattern in the top left-hand corner. You've got a yellow corner, we got an orange corner, a red corner, a purple corner. And what that is we're taking pictures of a laser line around the log as the piece is going through, determining the best value we can get out of logs. And then we can start placing lumber within that particular circle and see if it fits to get the most value out of it. Inside of it, you can see that we have a 2x4, a 4x4, and a 2x4 on the bottom of it. The second picture is just showing the shape of that log and how it needs to be turned. The next picture over is actually the log in behind it. It's grading it as going, so when it gets through each of the processes, it's reporting back to us the thickness, the widths, the lengths, and we can utilize that information to control the quality of the product. The magic to the business is to get high yield and high quality as fast as you can do it.
So you're coming up with an individual plan for each log that goes through.
That is correct.
I think I might need your planning software to help organize my life.
We need it to plan our life here.
Well, can we go take a look at all this planning in action?
We sure can.
All right.
It is a massive facility. We were able to cut approximately 240 million board feet a year. That's what our capacity is right now. If we run 100-hour work weeks, we can go up to 350 million board feet in 1 year. I thought we'd start out where the logs are first put onto the in-feed deck. They come up one at a time. There's a scanner behind us that scans them. If they're bigger than 27 inches, we have to kick them out of the sawmill. But we'd use a saw first of all to cut into a shorter length, and then we utilize the rest of the log in the sawmill. Every piece of log is used.
Well, that brings up an interesting question for me as an environmentalist. I know that West Fraser is really committed to sustainability. So how does that work in the lumber industry?
We actually log to a number that's less than the capacity, so we're growing faster than we're actually cutting them down. The wood business has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Trees are growing all the time around us, and if you log them sustainably, which means if you cut them down within a sequence which allows them to age properly, it will be self-sustaining.
So now we're going to go see the debarker, right?
Yes, we're going to go see the barker. That's where you use 2 sets of spinning knives to take the bark off the logs.
Sounds like a circus act. 2 sets of spinning knives.
The debarker has had a 27-inch ring in it, so we can fit a 27-inch log through that particular machine. It's got 2 rings, and each of the rings spins in opposite directions. It's got 6 tips or knives on it that spin around and peel the wood off the log.
So where are we now?
We're actually between the debarker and the merchandiser, and in this area is where we scan the logs. We're taking pictures of a laser line around the log so we can see the diameter of the log, the shape of the log, and the length of the log.
This is what I was looking at in the control room that allows you to make that custom plan for each log.
That is correct.
So this is a really good example then of how technology is modernizing mills and helping you become more efficient and more sustainable.
Yes, and the faster the computers get, the better scan we can have the log to make each log have an individual plan.
And that contributes to the sustainability of the industry as a whole, right?
That's correct. Now this is the merchandiser, where after the scanning, we take the logs and cut them up into saw logs. 100 years ago, there was no power, so this was all handwork. It'd be standing person at the top, a person at the bottom with a crosscut saw, pulling it back and forth through a tree.
So these are capable of cutting different lengths of pieces.
Yes, they're 6-foot diameter saws, and they're on a movable base, so they can shift back and forth to cut a random assortment of logs in different lengths.
That's super cool.
It is. Just wait till you see what we have in the mill.
All right, let's go.
The facility is mostly automated. There is some interaction that has to happen for cross-ups and things where a person is going to have to interact with the lumber, but our goal is not to have that happen. After the merchandiser, we've sorted the logs into 2 decks. This is storage area before we go into our main canter lines. We need room for storage to create more minutes of runtime in case the merchandiser goes down.
And why do they have tiger stripes on them?
That's from our spinning knives in the debarker. So you can see they're in 2 different directions, and knives spin in different directions.
So once things are up and running, how fast will this amount of logs be going through the mill? How fast will it empty?
If we didn't start the merchandiser back up again, it would take approximately 45 minutes to run all these logs.
Got it, that's pretty quick. But with the merchandiser running, it's like a continuous flow?
It's a continual, it always stays as full as we can get it. We're about to start up here in a minute.
Okay, got it. So these logs will very soon begin going through?
They'll start to go through the process, yes.
Pretty menacing looking saws right back there. Where are we exactly right now?
We're in the filing rooms.
Okay.
We're ready to take care of all the saws. So this is the bandsaw. This is what we use to cut the sideboards off on the canter.
Oh, where those pieces were falling off on the side?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually quite an interesting science to use bandsaws. The teeth have to be the proper shape, they have to be the proper sharpness. You have to run the wood at the right speed. If you run too fast, it's not good. If you run too slow, it's not good. And these saws are a little bit unique that the tooth spacing is unique. There's a 5-pattern tooth on that saw, so they get bigger and bigger and then smaller and smaller and bigger and bigger.
I'd hate to see the orthodontist bill for that.
It's big.
Well, I've been really amazed by what I've seen here all the way from the beginning of the process. I mean, we started with me taking a look at all of the logs that were coming in.
Yes, so we started off with the log sorting. We went through the merchandiser, over to the sort decks. We came into the canter line where the logs were scanned again. We determined the pattern to cut. Went into the canter, we started chipping off some wood. We cut off the sideboards that fell off and went to the board edger. Then we went to the trimmer line and up the trimmer to the sorter and down the sorter to the stacker. When the log is going through and being cut up, we get the most out of every piece of lumber, the most value, the most recovery. Then we sort the wood into like units, so thickness, width, and length, so we have like packages going out the back door to make it easier in our planer mill. The most up-to-date technology is really important. You got to keep up with the Joneses, right? It's a very competitive business, and you have to make sure that you produce it as cheaply as possible if you want to be the last one standing. So we just came from the sawmill where we cut the lumber. This is the middle process where we dry the lumber.
Ah, okay, so all of this steam that we're looking at is clean steam.
It is clean steam. It's the water that comes from between the cells and in the cells of the lumber.
What is the moisture content of a typical piece of wood, and where are you trying to get it dried down to?
The moisture content of a typical piece of wood is about 50%, and we're trying to dry it down to less than 19% with a target of 16%.
Got it. How long does that process take?
The process takes about 20 hours.
And is it literally like going through an oven? What's happening there?
The process is like going through an oven, so we preheat the lumber, then we put a lot of heat on the lumber, and then we condition the lumber to get it equalized.
Well, I gotta say, while I was up on the crane, it was pretty rainy and cold, but this steam is nice and warm.
Yes, we don't charge extra for the steam bath.
Thank you, but it does seem like a pretty energy-intensive process. How does that fit into the sustainability picture? I worry about that.
We actually take our dry planer shavings, we grind them up, and we use them for our heat source for drying this lumber. We use every single bit of that log.
Got it. So that's where it fits into the sustainability piece. It's a biomass system?
That's correct.
George, you know, I always love finding that sustainability piece of what we're doing. It has been amazing to see the overview of this entire process from start to finish. I'm gonna cop to something. When I heard that we were coming here, I definitely had an image of sort of lumberjacks in a very manual, labor-oriented kind of industry. And this has completely blown my mind. I mean, I think I've seen more screens here than I ever expected to see for the lumber industry.
It's no longer that manually intensive lifting, pulling, pushing type of job anymore. We need a very high-tech employee who can think and interface with the technology to get the best use of it and the best recovery and value out of our saw logs.
So a lot of people, you know, when they think about automation, they get very scared because they think, oh no, these jobs are being taken away. But if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not about jobs going away, it's about different kinds of jobs.
It is. It's about a person who can understand technology. So you're replacing a person who is more maybe low skilled with a person who's a little bit higher skilled. The days of having somebody who just can lift and pull and sweep the floors, those days are gone. You need to have someone who can interact with technology, program a computer, how to look at a computer. You have to have someone who recognizes that. You no longer have the person who is the big muscular ox who can push and pull things around.
Is that something that West Fraser invests in as far as training?
We invest in all the training. All of our employees, we train from safety to how to run the equipment, from our maintenance people, how to fix equipment. We do all the training for everybody.
Very cool. And now the wood that we saw is off to a wholesaler, right? Someone's not going to come and buy wood here from West Fraser.
They're not going to come to our site and buy lumber. They're going to buy it through our corporate group.
Well, I would love to keep following the lumber on its path to eventually see where it gets put to use in a house.
Well, I can hook you up with an end user.
I had a feeling you could. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Tamara.
Hey, George.
So how are your tree travels?
Loud. The sawmill I spent the day in, really, really loud. But I got to go up in a crane.
A crane? What were you doing up there?
What do you think you do up in a crane? You get a bird's eye view. Seriously though, I got an overview of the entire process from the raw wood coming into the mill to the final product being shipped off to the warehouse. I also got a pretty good understanding of the replanting process.
Well done. I'm proud of you. You really branched out on this trip.
Oh, who's doing the bad tree puns now?
I learned from the best.
Thanks, George.
Safe travels.
I'll see you later.
All the information we gather about each individual board is stored for years. We have all the data for every single board individually. At any time, we can take this out to a customer's yard, and we can determine why that board is out there. We can actually see the picture of the board, the defects that are on the board itself, and we can send that information off to the vendor, and the vendor can program it in. So we have the vendor working with us to help us identify defects contained within the board. It's very important that we also don't mix the grades. So if we have low grade contained within high grade, our customers will complain and tell us that we're not on grade. So it's really important to categorize the wood properly.
Well, we've reached the final stop on our journey in the life cycle of a log as we try to learn more about sustainability and the technology used in the lumber industry. We started off at the tree farm, then followed the wood to the mill, where we saw how technology is helping to modernize production practices. We followed the lumber all the way through until it was stacked and shipped off to the wholesaler. And now I'm here at the construction site, the final resting place for the wood. You know, as I look up at this construction site, I'm reminded about some of the things that I learned about the carbon cycle during this journey. As many people know, while trees grow, they absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which is then stored as carbon in the wood. But when those trees are harvested for lumber, that carbon stays within the wood instead of being released back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, which is what happens during the manufacturing process for other building materials like steel and concrete. And of course, the less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the better it is for the planet. Turns out wood really is the original environmentally sustainable building material.
Hey, Tamara.
Hey, George.
So, did you happen to find out how much wood a woodchuck chucks if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
No, I did not happen to see any woodchucks, but I did find out how much a human can chuck, and more importantly, how much we replant.
Replant? So it's not like the old stodgy image of just a lumberjack cutting down trees anymore?
No, no. The industry's gone way beyond men in flannels, although I always do appreciate a good man in flannel. Now, the industry has evolved to become truly self-sustainable. They actually replant more than they cut down, which, if you think about it from a business perspective, I mean, it makes sense, right? Trees are their product. They always have to have their product available to sell, so they're always gonna need trees.
That's great news. We love it when businesses are being sustainable.
Oh, now, not to get sappy, but you know, I always like to bring you a little something special. So, I brought you a little gift from my tree travels.
What are you hiding back there? Hey!
It's a baby tree, all for you.
Thank you. I know right where that'll go.
Excellent.